So we're going to take a look at the new Enscape plugin for Vectorworks. And when you first load Vectorworks up, if you have the right setting, the Enscape dialog will pop up and just take you through a welcome and how to install the drivers in the workspace. Now, this is pretty straightforward. All you really need to do is have a little look. We're just going to take a look at the example project here. This is a project I worked on a little while ago. So in order to get the plugins installed, we just go to Third Party, Enscape, and add Enscape to Workspace. Now wait a few moments while the workspace reloads in Vectorworks, and suddenly you'll notice a new icon down at the bottom of the tool sets, and here you can see the Enscape tool sets available. Now you can drag those off and pop them into the view if you like. But there's all sorts of little icons that represent everything that we can do with Enscape plugin directly in Vectorworks. So that's pretty cool. So let's click onto the Enscape button to begin with. And you'll notice that up on the mode bar, as usual, there's various modes. Now, when you click on the Start Enscape button, immediately Enscape will start to load up. A really nice little tip here is I can kind of drag my screen and split screen. Now, this does work much better if you're running two separate screens. So if you've got two monitors in the office, this would be the ideal way to run it. But for the purposes of videoing this, I decided to run it on one screen just so I could record that single screen. Good, okay, so you can see we can navigate through into the Vectorworks model. And if we click on the second option, we can basically synchronize the view in Vectorworks with the Enscape view. And you can see the rendering quality is really nice straight away. Look at the grass and things like the clouds and the shadows and the backgrounds, that sort of stuff. So as soon as we pan around the view or use the Orbit tool in Vectorworks, because our view is synchronized, it will update directly. Now we can go into the settings for the Enscape using the settings dialog, visual settings, and you'll see that we can change things like the scenery, the background, and there's also quite a few ideas and sliders in here for things like rendering quality as well. So things like field of view, some of those will be greyed out because that's synchronized to my Renderworks or Vectorworks camera at the moment. But the rendering quality, depending on the graphics card you have, you can slide this right up. We can have a little look at perspective. Again, that's greyed out at the moment because I'm in my synchronized view, but that's kind of cool. So yeah, really nice feature that as soon as you walk through on your second screen or your split screen, you'll immediately see the model moving. Now there's nothing to stop you from flicking over to the Enscape screen and navigating there, and you can see the keyboard shortcuts there, and obviously we can pop into full screen mode. Now the usual kind of keys apply. These are the gaming keys, the WASD keys: W for forward, S for back, A for left, and D for right, plus Q and E for up and down. Right clicking allows us to pan our view around and translate the view. Then we can, if we want to, can just pop back to split screen view again. So now when I kind of move around in the Vectorworks model, again, it's immediately synced again as soon as we went back to Vectorworks, which is a really nice aspect. So, you know, while you can move around freely within Enscape to explore ideas, as soon as you click back into Vectorworks and you're in synchronized mode, it will immediately update straight away. So what I'm going to do now is basically add a few trees and plants in the Vectorworks model. And these are the VB trees, which you'll find under the visualization palette. They're particularly nice, they're high quality, they take a few seconds to download. But the really cool thing is, as soon as I add them into my Vectorworks model, you'll immediately see on the right hand screen the Enscape model is immediately updating with a really nice rendered version of those plants or trees. So, you know, it's great to know that anything we add in the model is directly synchronized. It's one of the beauties about the direct synchronization plugin is this immediate effect you get rather than having to export the model each time. So it's just a different way of working. It's a more sort of synchronized sort of immediate way, if you like, where you can see as soon as I add these trees, probably best done in top plan view actually. Yeah, I thought so. So let's flick to top plan view in the Vectorworks model. You'll notice that the Enscape screen stays in perspective view, and then it will update as soon as we click back into perspective mode. Let's just duplicate those trees, drag them around there on the Vectorworks model in plan. As soon as I go back into perspective mode, you should find that the synchronization starts to work again. So at the moment I found that the Enscape plugin seems to work with synchronized perspective, but not orthogonal views at this stage. But what do you think of the rendering quality? It's very, very nice and very easy to sort of walk around and get a really nice client experience. So one cool thing that you can do down on the right, if you right click the mouse and hold shift, you can actually change the time of day. You notice those beautiful clouds sliding across the screen, and as we go to sunset the shadows get longer. Let's go the other direction and you'll notice again the shadows change in real time. So this is kind of what we mean by real-time rendering. It's the ability to literally just sort of move around freely, slide sort of time and date, and just be able to change things in dynamic sort of circumstances. Previously, you always had to kind of re-render, especially with things like viewports in Vectorworks. Obviously, you always have to re-render those. So I really love this aspect of the plugin and how it works. And I do quite like working in this split screen mode. So you can see, even though I want to, I can work in wireframe mode in Vectorworks if I really wanted to. And I could hold the B key down in order to temporarily invoke the wireframe view. Here we go. So that's really cool in Vectorworks. But you're immediately over on the right hand side seeing the high resolution rendering that Enscape is providing. So let's take a look at the visual settings once more and see what else we can have a look at in here. We've got a few other settings. I'm just going to go for outlines. Now outlines gives you a nice sort of almost like cartoony style outline in your Enscape drawing. So something a bit more graphic, a bit less real, a bit more sketchy. You've obviously got the exposure and things like the depth of field as well. The depth of field is a really nice slider just to change the blurring and the depth of field in the visual. That's looking really cool. Okay, so we've got a bit of outline on the model at the moment. Let's take those outlines down again. Let's go for a slightly more realistic view. So I hope you like the look of that. And we'll kind of just change the time of day again, show you how easy that is just by right clicking and holding shift down to go down to something a little bit more dusky. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Love the way the shadows move and the grass sort of responds as well. Look at the sky, I mean, it's fantastic. So actually, if we do click onto Atmosphere, this is really nice. You can basically turn the background to white if you would like to, but you also have sliders for all the different aspects of things like the cloud. And you can see I can basically just slide the cloud density icon in order to increase or decrease the various types of cloud. We've got different variety of cloud, cirrus and cumulus and different densities and so on as well. So it really is possible to really fine-tune your sky, your 3D sky, how you would like it. I think it's a particularly nice aspect, definitely. Something that I really, really enjoy doing. Just sort of helps you refine the visual, make a much nicer experience for the client and a much nicer sort of image to output at the end of the day. So very, very responsive. That's pretty cool. Moon size obviously will only apply once we get to night time. So let's kind of slide that down. You see the lovely stars coming out. Not sure where the moon is at the moment, but if we could find it, we could probably adjust the stars. We've got the star brightness there and the night sky brightness. That's beautiful. So we do get this really nice sort of visual at night time. There's no lighting in this model at the moment, but you can see auto contrast. Just play around with these sort of things like saturation, color, temperature, ambient brightness as well. Obviously has a big effect on nighttime shots and effects and so on. So all of that is available really under the image and under the atmosphere tab. So yeah, I think that's fine. Let's have a quick look back in here. Let's go back to more of a daytime. I love the early morning sort of sunrise shots. They look beautiful actually. Okay, so when we're happy with the image, we can go over to the Capture tab on the visual settings. And there's a number of settings in here that are quite interesting. When you export the image, you can actually export object ID and material ID images as well. So let's go ahead and do that, and then I'll explain what these are. So you see there's a bunch of different sort of options in the palette here. So we'll go to Render Image, and we'll click OK. And we can always adjust the output size before we do this as well in the Capture tab. Let's just click OK, and we'll just click Save. So you can see Enscape starts to render the image, little progress dialog. It's pretty zippy, and that's pretty much done already. So let's just minimize our application. Let's take a look at the final rendered images. So we've got a depth image that helps in Photoshop. We've got an object ID. We've also got a material ID. and they look pretty similar to me. But basically these are different materials that you can use in Photoshop. Then we've got the final output image. So the great thing with those is if you do know Photoshop, you can load those in as channels and to help you actually select the various images to make modifications. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is just going to pop back to our Vectorworks drawing for a moment. And we're just going to make a few more little changes. We're basically just going to kind of spin the model around a tiny bit here. And I'm going to go and look at my saved views. So here you can see we've got a saved view of the kitchen. Let's just have a little walk around. So let's click onto the walk tool. Let's just open up this palette here a little bit. And we'll just click and kind of move slowly through the space. So yeah, it's not bad. This will give the client a reasonably good experience. And we can turn off the page boundary just to tighten that up. But let's go ahead and relaunch the Enscape plugin again. So you can see we've relaunched already, and we're immediately looking at the Enscape plugin in our second window. And we can synchronize the view once more. So as soon as we move around in the Vectorworks model, you'll see, look at the difference in rendering quality, particularly good for the internal images. Very realistic actually, the nice reflections on those chairs, the sort of GI on the corners, really nice sort of lighting that Enscape has. In Vectorworks, by the way, that flashing plane is something that's Z fighting on the ceiling. Don't worry too much about that. But I'm quite impressed by the way that Enscape hasn't actually shown that. So we can again adjust the time. You can see as we go down to nighttime, it looks really nice outside. We can see those nighttime clouds, and let's go through to sunrise again. So all the way through the time of the day, just to give the client a really nice impression of what this space might be like to inhabit at different times of the day. Let's navigate forward a little bit more into this area. So let's focus on the kitchen. And what I want to show you here is that you can click on the kitchen units, for example. And because they're parametric in Vectorworks, of course, we can easily modify and change the type of doors and the type of drawers, that kind of thing. So let's do that. Let's go through and change to surface mounted. And let's go to type. And let's just add in 3 drawers. You can see we're really in an immediate click. The Enscape plugin, you don't have to do anything. It just updates dynamically as you model. So it's a really good partnership between the two programs, Vectorworks for the modeling and Enscape for some of the visualization. And you can see I'm just kind of looking back on that table and chairs. So if I do want to free ride and navigate around in Enscape, I can do at any time. That's really nice. Particularly sort of looking from inside to outside. It looks very, very realistic, and the landscape outside looks nice. So yeah, amazing real-time rendering quality in Enscape. Very, very excited by this plugin. I'm not sure the lighting in Vectorworks is working yet. Maybe that's something that we can test out a bit more. But let's just kind of make one more little change, and we'll kind of walk through again. So here we'll look at another example where we select the doors, and I'm just going to click Show 3D Open just to really show you the difference between the Vectorworks model and the Enscape visual. Now, what do you think? I mean, it looks very realistic in terms of the external, the materials, and the sort of stuff in the distance. So if I do delete that door, it will make a big difference and it will kind of close. So yeah, really nice synchronization. So here we're in a different space here. We're just looking into the hall and the stairway, and let's see how that works. And if we go to our save views, let's go through to the living room. Okay, so let's take a look at the video editor. When we click on that, we get the video editor appear in the Enscape window. And basically what we can do is move forward, and we can click add keyframe to basically add some very simple keyframes to record our view. So it's a really simple video editor. It's pretty cut down. It's pretty unsophisticated in many ways, but actually it's really basic, and it's just what you need to create a series of sort of, simple little animations. So I think we've got a bunch of different keyframes there. Let's get one more, add keyframe. When we're ready, we can click preview. And all of this is playing in real time. This isn't pre-rendered video. This is just playing in real time in the Enscape window while Vectorworks is sat open on the other screen or other side of the screen. So, really good for creating little animations on the fly. So definitely something you should check out. So what I'm going to look at now then is something I pre-made earlier, which is actually a Enscape web view. It's a bit like the Vectorworks web view, but enhanced. So I'm just loading that into the Enscape Webviewer. This is a standalone link that you can email to your clients and share with them. And anybody with an internet device, an iPad, a phone, or a computer can access this model online. So you can see it's just running through, I think Google Chrome actually supports it better than Safari. So I'm just kind of navigating in real time. great way to share your model with your clients, you know, when they might not have sort of sophisticated software or able to access, say, Vectorworks Viewer or the Enscape plugin. So, you know, this is just as good for them, nice and simple. They can kind of slide through. The quality isn't quite as good as the full Enscape in the browser, but in terms of sort of simple navigation, really, really nice. So the beauty with the Enscape Viewer, you can share it with your clients, nice and simple, really kind of cut down settings, and I think anybody with simple computing skills can work this out. There are some deeper settings, so if you go to the sidebar on the right side, or left side, sorry, you'll see that we've got a few settings in here. We can go to white card model, take away the debate about materials potentially. We can introduce things like the outlines again, slide those off to get a bit more realism, and a few other little basic settings like exposure and brightness. But again, it's not quite the same sort of sophistication as the actual Enscape software or plugin itself. Because it's WebView, it's very responsive, and again, it's designed to run on all iOS devices. So, you know, whatever phone or iPad you have, for example, it should run. Now we can reset the view, and if we had a headset, we could actually kind of plug this in. As one of the other big benefits of Enscape and Twinmotion actually is that we are virtual reality compatible. Now, we're not going to talk about in this presentation, but that might be something we'll come back and do another webinar on in the future. So I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to Enscape plugin for Vectorworks. I recommend if you're on a PC platform, you definitely have a play and a try, because it's free until September while it's in beta, and there is a roadmap for some development, so you should see some updates coming through soon. I thought I'd finish this section of the presentation with a look at the actual full version of Enscape. I had a trial of this recently, and here we can say one of the example models they've given, and you look at the render quality here, it's really, really nice. You've got proper sort of global illumination and ray tracing, and again, you've got to, you know, sit back and remember this is real-time rendering. So as you're moving around the model and changing the lighting, we're just getting all of that changing in real time. So things have come on such a long way in the last few years with the new graphics cards. Things like the RTX graphics card on PCs made a big difference for ray tracing. But yeah, definitely something I'm super excited about, seeing where this goes in the future, and looking to sort of see how this develops with things like virtual reality as well. Enscape's really good for natural environments outside as well, things like the grass and the plants and the trees, water, beautiful. We also have a bunch of different rendering styles in the full version as well. So just a quick look at those, the white card model as well. And you can see, yeah, really realistic actually, and good sort of global illumination as well on the full version. So that's kind of nice. Let's go back perhaps to the rendered view. Yeah, that is actually really nice quality rendering. Particularly, you've got to remember this is just in real time, just running in the PC on full screen at the moment. Now, unfortunately, Twinmotion is cross-platform, whereas Enscape is only PC-based at the moment. So it'd be great if there was a Mac version for you guys and for myself, who run both platforms, but sadly not. So if you do get a trial of Enscape, you can get a full trial for 14 days, and then after that it's a monthly model of ownership. But basically, let's just keep playing around with this, see what we can do. You can see it's really easy to change things like the exposure brightness in real time, and it kind of just adapts very rapidly sort of to the lighting levels. That's a little bit overexposed now, so slide that back down again there. And things like field of view, we can just kind of easily change those to get much more wide angle, or go in to get more sort of orthogonal type views. Again, the rendering quality, there's different levels of quality depending on the graphics card you have, but even on low it looks pretty good actually. I love cranking it up to ultra quality, particularly for the inside stuff. Medium, yeah, it's not bad. Let's go to high. Definitely can see a bit of a difference on reflections and the global illumination. Those are the kind of things that always take a lot more computing power, things like the reflections. Let's go to, yeah, certainly getting a better performance when we slide. Let's go to ultra. Look at the quality in ultra, the water, beautiful, lovely reflections, real detail on the grass, and those lovely clouds and things reflecting in that sky. Very nice lighting. I do like the night shots as well, they're really cool. So it's definitely something that is enjoyable to play with. And you can really create a nice sort of atmospheric sort of rendering. Maybe go for something a bit more dusky, less traditional sort of daytime, you know, middle of the day, sunny sky renderings. We don't always have to do those. something a bit more atmospheric with some nice sort of cloud and rain, that kind of thing as well. So yeah, definitely really, really nice in terms of the lighting quality. Let's go ahead and navigate inside. So I'm just using the W key to move forward. Can be a little bit tricky, so I'm just going to go through into this gallery space here. And you can see, just be quite sensitive with the keys. It's easy to kind of crash through walls or ceilings. So just kind of, you know, get used to the sensitivity here. And the rendering quality, here we go, that's medium. Let's have a look at the next setting, high. Takes a little bit longer to render, but does look nice. And let's go to ultra. You'll see it takes a bit longer when we actually move around. It gives a slightly lower resolution preview when you're moving, but as soon as you let go, it kind of re-renders, and those reflections and bump maps and all those things come in. So again, we're just sliding the time of the day, and you see all those lovely reflections and shadows and light beams coming into the room. So the example module you get with Enscape has a number of different rooms and spaces. I recommend you explore some of these. They obviously optimize the model and the spaces to give a really nice impression. As I said before, you can slow the speed down, kind of move the movement to something a little bit more to your requirements. But what I really love is just playing around with the daylighting and just sort of sliding that advanced setting. Things like 2 points perspective is nice, just to get a more natural look to your verticals when you're looking at spaces like this. So yeah, very, very nice job on the real-time rendering. And I think it's some kind of ray tracing, but they've done a cracking job in terms of the simulation of realism. So very, very good. So I really do hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and please do consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, where we're making lots more videos on Vectorworks, Twinmotion, and hopefully some Enscape videos now we've got the plugin. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.